So a video of two black men being arrested at a Starbucks in Philadelphia recently went viral, sparking protests and calls for boycotts from activist groups. The manager had the two men arrested because they refused to buy anything. And so, as logically follows, of course, the entire company is now being accused of racism. Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson has now pledged to rid the company of discrimination by closing 8,000 company-owned Starbucks cafes in the US on May 29th. 170,000 Starbucks employees will undergo implicit bias education while the rest of America goes to Dunkin' Donuts for the day. And what will this accomplish? Well, pretty much nothing. Implicit bias training is meant to help people realize that they hold unconscious biases and subsequently how to counteract these biases. But it hasn't been demonstrated to be effective. In fact, one of the creators of the test that's been used to measure implicit bias, Tony Greenwald, has recently been quoted as saying, "This training has not been shown to be effective, and it can even be counterproductive." He said that while it will appear that Starbucks is doing the right thing, the training is not likely to change anything. Look, what the manager did in Philadelphia was messed up. I think it took her something like 2 minutes between the time the two men entered the store until she called the police. Apparently, that particular location's specific policy is that anyone who hasn't bought anything should be asked to leave, and if they refuse, then the police should be called. But can we not have some perspective here? Is this manager monitoring the food and drink intake of every customer, ready to dial 911 at a moment's notice? When you're at the cash register and this manager asks what you'd like to order, you better know this ain't no joke. Don't want to end up busted for tardy Frappuccino ordering. Look, I'm not saying implicit bias isn't a thing. There are numerous studies that demonstrate that we have cultural biases, but I'm very skeptical of accepting implicit bias as a means of attributing character flaws to people. Coming up bias on an implicit bias test can mean you're prejudiced against other races, but it could also indicate that you haven't spent much time around people of other races. Someone from Montana, for example, who has met maybe one black person in their life would probably perform horribly on one of these things. And the re-education component of these seminars is based on awareness of one's biases. The thinking goes, if you are aware of a bias, then you can be cognizant of that bias in the moment of your interaction with another race and prevent yourself from acting on it. So then it's not actually making us less prejudiced, it's just making sure you know you're a little racist so you can act extra nice towards the black people you meet. The internal monologues of those Starbucks employees interacting with their first black customers post-implicit bias training would be comedy gold. Okay, so let's be honest. You and I both know that chances are those 170,000 employees are mostly not actual racists. I associate baristas with a lot of things. Coffee, scones, intricate latte, foam art, but generally not racism. The fact of the matter is that this is a PR nightmare for Starbucks, and the company is likely just going through the motions to save face. And this is what really grinds my gears. I'm sick to death of companies making these big, grandiose, yet ultimately empty statements in response to public backlash. The manager, the person actually responsible for the incident, was fired. Isn't that enough? Does anyone seriously believe that you can just hold a training session that will somehow unbias nearly 200,000 people's minds? This just sounds like a half-baked plan concocted by a committee of panicky corporate executives, which is ultimately probably what this is. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure to click here for some more Comment Nation videos.